What's up, everybody? Wade here, and I've got some exciting announcements to make. We have officially announced the dates for our next Moving Titan retreat. It's going to be March 21st and 22nd, 2024, and we got something special in store for you folks. Andy Elliott, the world's #1 up-and-coming sales trainer, is going to be at the next retreat doing a full day-long live and in-person training. You will not want to miss this because your competition sure isn't going to. Bring your team, come, bring your spouse, vacation to Florida. It's going to be a 2-day event. Andy's going to be there all day, delivering all kinds of value on everything moving. We are breaking him into the moving industry to take it over. And we've got something else in the works with Andy. It's going to be pretty cool, but I can't tell you exactly what it is just yet because we are still working on it and have not officially announced it, although some people might know. If you ask around, there might be a few rumors on the other venture that we are partnering with Andy on. But moral of the story, he's breaking into the moving industry, and he will be at the next Moving Titan retreat, live and in person, March 21st and 22nd in Tampa, Florida. We've got room for 800 people at this thing. It's going to be twice as big as anything else the moving industry has ever seen, and we are going to dominate when he comes in, uplift the entire industry. So get your tickets today. You can find them if you message me on Instagram at Wade Swikle, or you can email info@movingtitanretreat.com, or visit our website, Moving Titan Retreats with an S on the website.com, movingtitanretreats.com and movingtitanretreat.com, info@movingtitanretreat.com. I know we got to fix that. Got one with an S, one without an S, but just come find us. Find us on Instagram at the very least, and we will get you taken care of. You don't want to miss this next event with Andy Elliott. We only have room for 800 people, and there's like 8,000 legit moving companies in the US, and we might even be getting some people coming from other parts of the world with this thing. So get your tickets today, bring your team, reach out for more information, and we'll see you there. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. I'm your host, Wade Swikle, and today's guest, we've got Robert Esposito. He's the founder of Relocators, a multi-dimensional end-to-end home transition company specializing in local and long-distance residential moving, home cleanouts, junk removal, professional estate sales, online auctions, secure storage, restoration packouts, assisting restoration companies, carriers, and adjusters. Relocators has 6 locations in New York and Florida. Thank you, Robert, for joining me on the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Wade. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess start off, tell me a little bit about your journey into the moving industry. You know, what got you into this space and how you got to where you're at today.
Okay. I got into the space. My mother had started an estate sale company. And what happened was my Nana got cancer and she was a secretary and she was like tasked with, cleaning out her Queens home and moving her to Long Island. When she did that, she thought there must be a better way. And she put an ad in the paper, old stuff out, brings the money in, let us show you where to begin. And with that, she was like, one of the first estate and tag sale companies on Long Island. I would say like the first 5 or 10. But there was a big shift in like the industry where the Depression era was starting to downsize and die. And the younger generation, they don't want anything. So 4 or 5 years after that, I would like once in a while, I was going to college, waiter, bartender, and I would clean out houses on the weekends for spare money, working with my mother. And whenever there would be like a person who's hasn't passed away, but they're downsizing into an assisted living, the assisted living directors would like see me at the jobs and they would kind of twist my arm into renting a truck and moving them into the assisted living. And that's kind of how I got started.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about kind of the early days. What was it like in the beginning? How did you kind of make a name for yourself in your area?
I mean, in the beginning, like I would say, like nobody starts out to own a moving company per se. Like you don't know, like you're not like, like it's not like NASA's gonna call and you're waiting on a call or something. It's like you kind of get pushed into it, and it leads to other things. And with me, like I always saw that, like if you Google life's biggest stressors, it comes death, divorce, moving, serious illness. And like I always say, like, but moving, it's like a trait. How does it come before cancer? Strangers come in your house and take all your things, but your things don't mean anything. They're just things. But it's the memories you attach to them. That's what means everything. And with what we were doing, it was like a few different services were all being hired, hiring us. People were hiring us for these few different services, and each one had a major life stressor with it on top of the moving. So I saw that that part of the industry seemed fragmented, and like in the beginning, it was just getting jobs from my mother because there was just spill off on all of her jobs of people that needed a move or a clean out. And one thing led to another. After about 4 years, I would say about 2011, 2012, I got really into audiobooks and just kind of learned more about like business and networking, and kind of took it from there. But in the beginning, it was just, this is a fragmented thing, and you know there's a lot of there's nothing glorious about it, but I really love the whole like study the human condition. Like you see people, you see everything as the mover, and no one looks at it like that, like, because it's weird. Like I said, it's a trade, but it's actually not. It's like super intimate. So I kind of like that dynamic, and I like dealing with people in those type of situations.
It sounds like you're pretty diversified, doing kind of everything that surrounds moving. Estate sales. That's an interesting one for me. But I mean, you do clean outs, junk removal, local long distance, helping restoration companies, online auctions. I mean, how do you prioritize all of those different areas? And do you have all those different things across the 6 locations that you operate in New York and Florida?
So yeah, just a little misconception. We have our headquarters in Hauppauge, and we own additional buildings on Long Island for storage. They're not actually like operating locations
Okay.
where we operate out of. And then Florida, we have a location we opened up for a few of our accounts because we're moving people down there so often ever since COVID that it just made sense to they would be calling us for moves to see if we were down there. And so we sent some guys down there. Two of my managers moved there, and we're just looking to have a hub from here. So when the trucks come back and forth with the volume, and we like service our clients and stuff on the coast, South Coast.
Gotcha. What part of Florida are you located in?
Punta Gorda.
Oh, Punta Gorda. Yeah, I know. I'm very familiar with that area. You're over by our coast. How did you pick Punta Gorda versus like the East Coast or a bigger city?
When Ian hit, I teamed up with a charity on Long Island, and I sent 2 truckloads down as a donation to help people. And when I did that, I have a lot of my contacts here and my accounts here. Sanibel Island was ravished. I mean, as you know, a lot of that area was, and we were able to move, like, I would say 30 to 40 people into storage off of Sanibel Island, and we kind of like helped them out in a extreme situation. So it just made sense to like find somewhere close to there and settle in. And then with the out of state, it really started to work out to our benefit with that as well.
Gotcha. I see that you do a lot of work with restoration companies. When Ian came through, we're in Tampa, so we're a couple hours north of that area that was most impacted by the Hurricane Ian. We started reaching out to like every single restoration company that we could find to see if there was anything we could do to help them expedite their pack outs and so that they could take on more work, but also to just because the area needed it so much. We worked with several of them. We were able to get several good sized jobs out of that. But traditionally, my experience with restoration companies has been that they like to do the pack outs and stuff themselves. Do you see that when you work with these restoration companies that that they like to do a lot of the pack outs and storage themselves, or have you found a way to kind of get in with them? Curious to hear like how that side of the business has developed for you.
Yeah, I mean, we're heavy into it. And I do understand what you're saying about wanting to do the packets themselves. What I will tell you is, at least in New York, I don't even understand how they do. Like, they do it under this guise of content manipulation. But really, nobody's supposed to move household goods from one location to another except the licensed mover.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that the industry even lets that happen or nobody's looking at that is absolutely amazing to me. Because I know how hard it was to get a mover's license and what we need to carry to be movers. So the idea that these guys are construction workers and they're got this guise of content manipulation on a carrier claim, and they're able to say, oh, we can move this stuff off site. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not right. Like, there's no way it could be right, I don't think. Within the home, I get it. But no matter what, like, if you're going to be a subcontractor to a restoration company or a carrier or an adjuster, you got to kind of understand that there's going to be those jobs where they want to do them themselves, but then it gets either really busy or really fragile. And whenever that pops up, you're a resource for them. So you keep it like that. Like, it doesn't have to be all or none. It could be like, I'm your support. Whatever you need, you call me when you're in. And they always want.
So are there any like franchises or national restoration companies that seem more receptive to working with a licensed mover that you found? Or is it just kind of, you try to build a relationship with mom and pops? Like what's the kind of the best foot in the door for movers that want to do more with restoration?
I would say yes, there are more receptive, but it's really just all about a meeting. Like, I have like 40 or 50 accounts, and some of them use me 6 days a week. And we're pretty much like, everything's based on like a dinner or a lunch. It's not like you're going to market to them. You're going to say, hey, can we sit down? Can I take you out to lunch? And at that point, like, that's the relationship. And with most relationships in business, that's kind of how, it works the best. And then from there, you grow, you have contacts.
Yeah, for sure. Most of you have heard me talk about Moversville and the power of their email marketing service that has helped us increase leads by over 112% over the last year. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services and lists like insurance providers, softwares, equipment suppliers, marketing sources, and much, much more. The best part? This resource is free. Go check out Moversville Connect today by going to moversville.com and clicking Connect. That's moversville.com and click Connect and discover the world of Moversville beyond email. One of the worst parts about owning a moving company has to be finding quality movers and drivers. Trying to run all the job ads takes up time, and then you schedule guys to come in for interviews and they never show up. It's a massive headache. Well, let me tell you about a good friend of mine named Winston who runs a company called Move Up Consulting. Move Up specializes in hiring and recruiting for the moving and storage industry, and they do all the lead generation for mover and driver candidates. They have a fully built hiring CRM, plus you get a dedicated account manager who phone interviews and screens all of your candidates. Once they find qualified candidates, they schedule in-person interviews for you and your management team so you can make great hires. They even handle all the appointment confirmations. It's that simple. To start building a better moving team today, visit moveupconsulting.com and tell them Wade sent you. Want to know what the silver bullet for growing your business is? USA Home Listings. USA Home Listings has a myriad of marketing services that are essential to every single moving company. It blows my mind when I have conversations with people who reach out looking for help, trying to get leads, trying to get the phone to ring, that aren't doing mailers and aren't subscribed to USA Home Listings. The data there is so invaluable, and it's not just home listing data, even though that's an awesome, super easy, super intuitive feature that they provide where you can filter out all of the homes that recently went under contract or got listed in your neighborhood, and a new coming soon feature before it even hits the MLS that you can filter out through zip codes, towns, cities, counties, prices. But that's just one small feature that they do. They also have turnkey mailing services. They'll help you design your postcard, a postcard that actually gets results. If If you've tried mailers in the past and it didn't work, it's probably because you didn't have the right elements on your postcard. And they also have a social media division. So check out usahomelistings.com. It's an essential addition to all of your marketing needs. Before you do any other marketing, check out usahomelistings.com. So about moving, I mean, it looks like you started off doing the estate sales stuff, or your mother was doing it, and that kind of led into the moving side of things. Tell me a little bit about the estate sale industry. Is that something that any mover could kind of get into? Do you get a lot of hallway stuff that you're able to, resell, or I guess just speak to that a little bit. What does that business model look like?
Yeah, that dynamic is, I mean, it really makes it different. Like to the outside world, we would be a moving company, but we're not a moving company anyway. Like I've had moving company owners come here and they're like, "Oh, you're not a moving company." They're like 100%, we're a moving company. Relocators Moving, and we have crews doing local, residential, and commercial moves every day. But we're really focused more on like the um, your parent had passed away and you and your siblings are coming in to liquidate the house. So now we're gonna pack your stuff into storage to ship it out of state to you when you want it, the stuff you want. Then we're gonna host an estate sale or an online auction. Then we're gonna clean out your house, and then we're gonna ship your stuff out of state where you live. Like that's where our like niche is. So like most moving companies will work with me because I mean, I'm a firm believer competition is your best referral source, but most of them will work with me because we'll just throw each other stuff because there's things, I don't necessarily do. And there's always my services that they definitely don't do. So I could kind of work with everybody. And that really helped out with me. Like the estate sale company needs cleanouts, the mover needs me for storage or junk removal. The junk removal guy needs me to do a move. So I like basically make relationships with everybody that I do a service. And that works out well too.
So how is the company structured? Do you have people that are designated for each department? Like, do you have somebody that's in control of like the local moving, somebody who's in control of long distance, somebody who might head up commercial, somebody who does the junk removal, the estate sales, or is it all kind of, managed by the same managers? Is the same crews doing each piece of that, or do you have it kind of broken up into departments?
A little bit of both. Basically, internally, we're one. The office, the marketing, things like that. But we kind of divide up like the three areas, like relo services, relo selling of items, and relo like storage. And those all three, like there's 9 companies within the organization, all like holdings and stuff like that, and a few operational. But the selling is completely different. So anything online auction, eBay, estate sales, that's its own department manager for operationally. Then all the other operational runs out of one other operations manager for like all the services, and we loan each other labor back and forth, but it's managed by 2 different people. And then the storage is again somebody else. And the way it works, to answer your question about the is there stuff that you can resell? Yeah. So what happens is, I'm sure and I don't know how it is there. You can tell me. Like, getting a charity is almost impossible. Like, nobody's coming to pick up your stuff, and you don't want to throw it away. And people really don't want to throw away things when it's like the house they grew up in and stuff. So after we'll do an estate sale or an online auction, we come in, we get hired to do the clean out, and then anything good we bring back to one of our facilities. We host a donation auction, and then we give a portion of the proceeds to a local charity, and they then give us tax receipts to give our clients.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it kind of all works perfect with that.
Did you have any mentorship to kind of figure out any of these different business models? I'm a big believer in mentors. That's really how this podcast got started, was seeking out mentorship from existing companies in our industry. Just kind of curious, where did you learn how to do all these things?
Well, I got into audiobooks a lot in like 2011, 12. I definitely had early on mentors. I would say the one job I worked was this restaurant, and it was two brothers who kind of like were college kids, and they wound up owning the restaurant, and they turned it into like the busiest restaurant in New York State. It's called Vincent's Clam Bar, and they were like my bosses. And from a from a behind the scenes level, I watched them a lot when I worked for them, and I was kind of enamored by the business model and the way they took care of people. And then as the years went on and I started the business and transitioned out of working at the restaurant, they became like friends and family, and one's actually a partner of mine. And absolutely, they've completely guided me the entire way as far as like anytime there's like a difficult question or now it's more like direct, like we'll set up a meeting and talk for a few hours. But back then it was just kind of just seeing it. And the other thing I would say is I'm heavy into like B&I groups and business networking. Ran a chapter on Long Island. We built it up to like 90 members. And I'm always like doing things and working with different business owners and trying to collaborate on stuff. So I would say the networking. I mean, show me your network, I'll show you your network. Like that's the most important part with hands down.
I love that phrase, and I agree
Yeah.
100% with that. I was a member of a BNI group for 4 years. We've got other people in our organization now that are doing that. What I guess have you found to be the best networking group that a business owner can get involved with that's really heavily focused locally in their community? Would you say BNI is the first place they should go, or is there something that you found that you've been able to open up a lot of doors through?
Yeah, being definitely BNI. It's international. It's in like 200 countries or something. Um, I think it's corporate now, so I was more involved. I used to like be a director and do speeches at trainings when it was privately owned. But um, I'm not such a big fan of like the corporate structure, so I'm just a member now solely. But it's definitely the one I would choose. It's got the most credentials, and it produces a lot of solid people. So I would definitely like say, BNI would be the first, and then anything else would be like a non-single occupation group, like a chamber or just local organizations like that. You know?
Do you have any strategies that you utilize when you go into those groups? Are you trying to form any connections or do anything that you found to make those connections valuable that lead to long term partnerships?
Yeah. So what I believe is, and I gotta structure how I say this. You go into a BNI group or a networking group, and you're thinking sell, you're thinking ROI, and you learn over the years that like the hand to hand referral is almost an annoyance. And I don't mean that like in a pompous way or like a showy way. I mean it in the fact that like you become very close to people, and then it's like you're doing them favors, or you got to, every Wednesday for the rest of your life, you go to breakfast and you got to answer questions you don't know the answer to because it's a friend of yours asking about a referral or something. And in the beginning you think that's everything. Wow, I'm going to do his move. But I'll tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't want my payroll. Like, do you want me texting you at 10 p.m.? Like, I'm out of my mind. I'm going to harass you. Like, why do you want to do my business? You want the 500 people I know or the 2,000 people I know. That's who you want. And when I say like, oh, BNI is everything, I can say BNI produces six figures a quarter for me. And that's because a guy joined a group in 2014 that left 6 months later and is still a $350,000 a year account of mine. And it's got nothing to do with BNI, but it's got everything to do with BNI. So I would say that the strategy is the relationships and understand like it's not like, oh, I want to do your move. I want to clean out your house. Yeah, I appreciate the work. I would love to come help you. I would love to give you great service, give you a great deal. But really, like, who can you put me in a group text with? And that leads to a coffee that could lead to the biggest account. I'd rather take the coffee than the guaranteed $10,000 job any day of the week.
Hmm, that's interesting.
That's more important.
Well, you mentioned audiobooks. You've been listening to those now for what, over 10 years or so. What recommendations do you have there?
What do you like? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, no, I've been big into both books and audiobooks, and I've got hundreds, both on my bookshelf and in my Audible account. Early on, probably the first business book I ever read was Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was probably back in high school, or maybe at the beginning of college, and that kind of just totally shifted my mindset to what a business owner's mindset should be. But I mean, since then, there's been so many. I guess it depends what kind of what subject area you want to learn about. If you're talking marketing, I'm a big Dan Kennedy guy. I've got a lot of his stuff. I've got actually pretty much his whole library that I've either that I have a physical book for, but I've listened to a lot of his stuff on Audible. I don't know if you've heard of him, but the No BS Guide to all kinds of stuff, affluent marketing to the affluent, No BS Guide to direct response marketing for non-direct response marketing businesses. So big fan there, but I'm always looking for new recommendations. A recent one that I've really enjoyed was Alex Hormozy, $100 million leads and $100 million offers, both fantastic reads. If you haven't picked those up, I highly recommend both of those. Or
Yeah,
listens, you could listen to them as well. But like I
yeah,
said, I'm always
absolutely.
looking for recommendations. So I'm curious to hear what have made a big influence in your life.
Yes, and thank you for answering first. You see, I agree with you 100%. I'm to my discredit, probably. I'm not. I don't know like all those other names you said at the end. Of course, Rich Dad Poor Dad and all the Kiyosaki Trump books I read. But for me, it's like I got my bachelor's in like psych and sociology. I had like a minor in acting and theology. I've always been like fascinated of like the way people think and studied that. So like to be honest with you, I would say number one, first book I would tell someone to get is The Alchemist. It's by far my favorite book. Nothing touches it. And then like more like not business, but it is business, like 48 Laws of Power. In the beginning, I was obsessed with the Steve Jobs, Walter Isaacson documentary, like whatever it's called. I listened to it like probably over 100 times for like a 2 year span. I always had it like as a go to when I was driving around on estimates, and I got so much out of that book. But again, it's not so much business. You know what I mean? Like at times, I picked up the the E Myth or different books like that just to study a situation I needed to learn about. But I didn't read it cover to cover or, get delve too much into it.
Yeah, no, those are all really good recommendations. I've read The Alchemist, 48 Laws of Power. I just got back from a conference.
You like it?
Oh yeah, great books. The
Yeah.
48 Laws of Power is a long one. You got to be ready to strap in.
Hey, I do it audio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just got back from a conference called the Home Service Freedom Event in Orlando, and the host was his name was Tommy Mello. He has a huge garage door service podcast, and I actually recently interviewed him on my podcast.
I
Me
saw
on
that.
me
Yeah.
on his. He's got a great book called Elevate, and it's all about
Yeah.
building teams and creating a culture where everybody's under the same mindset of winning. So I've been recommending that book a lot. I just gave my sales manager a copy of it, and then one that's on my list. I got a few actually from the conference right here. I've got the Seven Power Contractor. This is supposed to be really good. It's kind of I don't have it ready yet, but it's I think kind of along the lines of the E Myth, creating systems and processes for contractors, people in the home service business. Picked up this one, Branded Not Blanded. So I'll be checking that out. And then this is one of those Dan Kennedy books called The Ultimate Sales Letter. There was a speaker named Joe Polish, who's a pretty well renowned speaker who hosts the I Love Marketing podcast. And he turned me on to all the Dan Kennedy stuff. But he actually just put out a new book called What's in It for Them. And I think that might be a good one for you based off of,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, kind of like what you were just saying about, BNI helping others, opening up those doors, figuring out what's in it for whoever, not what's in it for me, what's in it for you, or what's in it for them. That's kind of the premise of it. I haven't read that one yet either because I just found out about it. But yeah, I mean, there's always all
I'm
kinds
definitely
of
gonna
them.
check.
We can.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, it just really depends what area of the business you're looking for. Are you looking to learn more about networking or sales or marketing or operations, investing, health, personal fitness? I go down these rabbit holes just depending on what I'm interested in at the time.
Me too. Me too. I actually, I hired a ghostwriter like 3 months ago, and I've been working with her. I'm trying to publish like 3 books,
Wow.
but like I have a plan to do it, and one being just a tool for the way a chef makes a cookbook. You know what I mean? After he has a couple restaurants, that sort of thing. But then, really, I want to do something more along the lines of like kind of like The Alchemist, but modern day sort of thing. Like more like just everyday stories, and especially like the stuff we see. You know what I mean? In people's houses. Like I did a published speak event a few months ago, and like talking about like hoarder houses and things like that. You know, so I love that stuff. And when we talk, we just go down rabbit holes for hours. It's great. It's so fun to.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to continue to share those
Absolutely.
going forward. Tell me a little bit about this speak event. I saw some of your YouTube videos where you gave a talk. Was that like a Toastmasters type organization, or what is that?
They're um they're like TED Talk. I think they actually ran TED Talks,
Okay.
and this is like a competing platform, and they host these like 10-person speak events. I think they actually just had one in Ireland. They're starting to really grow, and it's called speakevent.com, I believe, and it's cool because it's like you have all these different forms of media now. Like this is what I love about it. Like you have movies, you have art, you have music, you have like all these different platforms, but you don't have like a platform where like people just tell stories, and that's what humans did for eternity, and like the way they do this now with like the TED Talks or this, they just pick a topic and pretty much let you go for 10 minutes. It's completely memorized, and you study with them a little bit, but it's a really cool dynamic hearing some of these stories. So I was kind of like enamored by it, and I did it, checked it out, and I enjoyed it.
Good for you. I know public speaking is definitely one of the top fears amongst most people. So to be able
That's
to
what they say. Yeah,
polish and perfect that skill, and BNI helps with that a lot too. Standing up in
yeah,
front of a room every week, especially if you're, if you're new to that. I don't know if you how familiar you are. We host an event called Moving Titan Retreats, and we're going to be hosting our next one in March. Basically, it's for moving company owners from all around the world to come together for a 3-day event, 2-day, 3-day event, depending on what package you go with. But we'll have speakers from other moving company entrepreneurs, other entrepreneurs in other fields, sales trainers. We've got Andy Elliott, who's a big sales trainer that's coming onto the scene that's going to be doing a day-long training at that. So, definitely could send you more information if that would be something you'd be interested in attending. But basically, get
absolutely.
get to hear from some world-class speakers up on the stage, and you can do a lot from a stage. You can establish a lot of authority and credibility and power. There's another good book while we're on that topic by Dan Kennedy called "No BS Guide to Sell to what is it? Selling from the Stage" or something along those lines. I'll
Yeah,
find out. I might have a copy laying around somewhere of it, but definitely a lot interested in a lot of that stuff with you. On what you're
yeah,
saying.
I love that stuff. So send over whatever you would like. I would. Where is it?
It's in Tampa, actually.
Okay,
Yeah, it'll be downtown Tampa at the JW Marriott here in Tampa. So yeah,
nice.
we'll send you some more info there, and anybody else who's listening, of course, reach out and we'll get you the information for that. Tell me a little bit about your like what you would give your self advice if you were just starting out. What were some of the hardest lessons you learned, and what tips would you give a moving company owner who might be starting off, or really any business owner who might be trying to get their feet under them and make a name for themselves?
Choose a different industry. Nah. Uh, no, it's a very good industry. Obviously, I mean, everybody kind of needs it, and it's one of those things where if you're good, like no, like you can't put a roof on your house. Like I would have to. My best friend owns a roofing company, but like you can't put a roof on your house. You could rent a U-Haul and move yourself. At least you think you can. But then when you really have to move, you're like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
You know. So it's like that also makes the dynamic weird. What I would definitely say is to someone starting out, like the two biggest things is don't burn any bridges, even when you have like issues or altercations or just in business or with clients. Always leave off agree to disagree. Like don't ever just, throw a relationship out, or you never know where what's gonna happen or what's gonna come back to hurt you. So big on don't burning bridges. And the other thing I would say is trust your gut. You have to trust your gut. And every mistake I've ever made has been something I knew from day one, and I just carried the wrong hand too long. I held too long, and I just didn't listen.
Yeah. Good advice. Both really good pieces of advice. I think it's easy in this business to get frustrated at customers who are dealing with one of the most stressful times in their life, and sometimes you're just seeing the worst side of people. I always like to say that uh, you know moving is it's a low barrier to entry, but it's a high
Yeah,
barrier to success. You see a
exactly.
lot of people who start off with a pickup truck. I started off with a pickup truck or a U-Haul or a rental truck, or anybody can really start a company. I mean, if you want to get a license and stuff, there's a little bit more of a barrier there. Probably more so in New York than there even is in Florida, but even in Florida there is. So if you want to do it right, it's a little tougher, but it's still not that difficult. It's just it can be very tough to succeed because you're going against all these people that go out and don't do business the right way, and they just pop up overnight, and they fly by night type companies, and unfortunately they give the industry a bad name sometimes, and that's part of why we do this podcast and we do the moving titan retreats, and we're working on a training platform to go along with the retreat business so that we can just try to lift up the industry, because we don't charge enough for the stress and the hard work that we go through to put this business together. And we want to change that perspective from the consumer in our business so that people are more trusting of movers. What do you do to establish trust with your clientele and your base?
Well, first off, I would say I agree with you 100%. And it's funny because the people that are licensed, like the DOT or whatever, in New York, that's who licenses movers. Like they only, you know, they don't go after the people that aren't licensed. They only worry about the people that are licensed. So really anybody could do it. And that's like the whole like, oxymoron of
I
licensing.
was just having that
Yeah.
conversation with my general manager today. It's funny that you brought that
It's
up.
ridiculous. So it's like wait, you're damned if you do. Like you're not damned if you don't. It doesn't make sense. And with people like, yeah, I borrowed $2,000 from my like dad and bought my first box truck for $4,000. I used to have to fill the gas tank 3 times a day because I didn't have enough cash to get through the day. Like, you know what I mean? I'd have to put $20 in the tank, and then after I got paid on a 2-hour job, I'd have to go put another $20 in. Like that's what it was like. So 100%, I totally agree that you can start off with nothing and you can definitely build it up, and you're pretty much doing that all on your shoulders. As far as the trust goes, transparency, open communication, logos, truck wraps, presenting the crew well. Like every part of the operation has to, look and feel what it is and show that you care as a company. And I think now more than ever, like I sent a guy on an estimate, and like I kind of always say, like, if anybody has a last minute move, like red flag everywhere, because nobody like doesn't plan their move. Nobody's like, oh, I need a mover tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like a tree fell on your house. Like you knew this was coming for months. Why didn't you call anyone? So the company walked out on them, which is their fault because they probably chose the cheapest company and they were nobody and they didn't do their due diligence to hire the right company, or they harassed them or something happened where like that doesn't just happen. You know what I mean? And so I tell him, he's like, no, this guy was great. He used you guys like 6 years ago. And I'm like, oh yeah, really? He used this before? He's like, yeah. And he said to tell Rob that he's only going to pay what he paid in 2017. And I'm like, it was like 6 months ago. I'm like, okay, just tell him that's not a problem. He's like, really? It's not a problem? I'm like, yeah, just tell him I want to buy the house for what he paid in 2017 and I'll do the move for what he paid in 2017. But like, you get people like that. And that's literally what he said to him. What I told the kid to say to the guy, like people can be so like out there, like the whole like good, fast, cheap, like, they want it right away and they're not going to break the bank. But like moving is more expensive than I've ever seen it. Like I'm seeing moves that cost like 6 figures. It's crazy. Like the cost to like run a tractor out of state now, or just labor hours, or the city and what's going on with like in New York, we have this thing where anybody idling for 5 minutes, any civilian could get 25% of like $1,000 ticket to videotape it and send it in. So they're literally making people tell on people. It's the worst thing ever. And you get those tickets all day long. It's unbelievable. So it's like, you got to be able to roll with the punches and keep going.
Yeah, no doubt. And I don't envy you operating in New York. I know that you guys got some crazy stuff going on up there. We were just in New York a few months ago doing a move. It's actually for a friend of mine in Manhattan. And yeah, I think we got, I don't even know, a few $100s worth of tickets. And we didn't know any better. Like we were just parking where we thought we should park close to the home. So props to you for dealing with that. I mean, you definitely deal with some headaches over there. I mean, how did you get past those early days where you could barely fill up the truck? You had to stop and get gas 3 times in a single day because you didn't have enough money to fill it up the first time. Like, what did you do to get over those hurdles to get to be such a sustainable business that you are?
Just kept working. Like, like just barreled through. And always focused on protecting the company. Like I remember like a limo driver in the storage facility we were parking at the time when we had like 2 trucks. We were idling. We were completely in park. And he hit us with his limo and put a scratch. And he wanted $1,000. And the 2 Spanish guys they're actually still with me. They're managers and very close friends of mine. Now, they were like fighting me because I was like, pay him, pay him, pay him. We have to pay it. And they couldn't understand it because they knew they weren't at fault. I'm like, but who gives a damn who's at fault? We have something to lose. We had just gotten licensed and the insurance was impossible to get. And I would have had like a claim in the first month and I could not have the phone call. So like I had to jump on it. Like you got to do anything you can to sacrifice yourself for the business and protect the business at all costs, because things will come up that'll destroy you.
Yeah, it's that extreme ownership. You just gotta
Yeah,
own up to things sometimes, even if it's not your fault. That's life and that's business. It's not always fair.
it's cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's sometimes cheaper. It's a business decision at the end of the day. You get an upset customer that is demanding, $5,000 for a scratch on the floor that you didn't do, and because they decided to try to move something themselves or whatever the case may be. And it's a business decision. Is it worth the stress, the aggravation, the headache, hiring an attorney, going to court, dealing with that? Then you have an upset customer who's going to go leave a bad review, and then that hurts your business in the future. Or do you just pay it? Sometimes you got to make those tough decisions and swallow some pride. I can't tell you how many times we've had. We knew we were right, but the perception is reality, and you just sometimes have to own up to it and just kind of take it. And that's the struggle that a lot of people are looking in on the outside once you achieve some level of success that they don't understand.
We had a woman who like just put out a lawsuit for like $100,000. Now we've never had a bad review. We got called into a hoarding situation, and there was one day before she was getting evicted, so we had to take whatever we could. We took 2 truckloads out, but it's just pointing like it's a hoarding situation. We were never hired to do the job. We were helping out a realtor. We literally videotaped her signing the location releases in real time and talked about videotaping her because we knew like this was going to come back to bite us. And thank God the foreman did that because it was like it was not even questionable. There was over 15 sheets signed between BOLs and inventories and location releases for each of the days. And thank God. Like you have to know to protect yourself. Unfortunately, you only learn that the hard way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, like, what do you find like with like situations like that? You know, clients like that, because I mean, I get it. Like, this is the question I'm asking you. I see like we can do a bad estimate and human error, absolutely. Or things changed, or we didn't do our due diligence and ask enough questions. But I also see the flip side, and I try to explain this to the foreman. Like, people will hold back and then see that they're getting value for the service and have you do the other stuff. And what happens is you think it's a bad estimate, but it's not a bad estimate. It's a different job because they wanted to do all this work. And now they're like, why would I do all that work now? Because they now done a little bit of the work and they're like, I don't want to do this. Or they see us doing it and they're like, oh, I will pay these people. They're doing a great job for me. And then all of a sudden there's much more work. And you got to kind of like understand why is there a shift in like an estimate or something like that because of those type of situations.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a change order at the end of the day. You got to have good paperwork. You got to have estimates
Yeah.
signed off. You have to have an inventory signed off that the customer's agreeing to a certain inventory to certain circumstances. You know, this is where we can park the truck. You know, this is how many stairs or elevators there are. This is where the job's going to. This is exactly what we're moving, and that's the expectation. And then you got to train your dispatch or your crew chiefs that are out on the job site to make sure do a quick walkthrough before they start the move and make sure that everything matches up with what's on that inventory. Because if all of a sudden now you have to make some extra stops, if you know we've had customers literally having new furniture delivered to their old house during the move, loading up to go to their new house, and it's like whoa, wait a
Yeah.
minute, this is going to be add a lot to
Yeah.
the shipment. We might need another truck. We might need it's going to take extra time. So it's just basically pausing, saying, listen, sir, ma'am, whatever, this is what the job that you signed off on entails, and making sure you had your T's crossed and your I's dotted. We're happy to do this stuff for you, but there is a change order for this because this wasn't what was originally agreed to. If you're not willing to do that, that's fine. We don't have to do that piece of it. We'll do what we originally agreed to do. But that's better than the alternative of just doing it and then trying to collect for it after the fact. Job goes over 5 hours, customer's not going to be happy. I'd rather get ahead of that problem in the beginning, have that difficult conversation before the work is started or before it's being done as it's developing, than to try to recoup it on the back end. And you can only really do that if you have good systems and processes and you have your T's crossed and your I's dotted going into the move. Because if you didn't get a good estimate, the customer didn't sign off on it, you don't have a lot of ground to stand on, and that's one of those situations you might just have to swallow that pill and just again make that business decision at the end of the day. And if the customer's going to throw a huge fuss and make a big deal, even again if you're in the right, then again you got to make that business decision. But ideally, you're communicating with them every step of the way. You've got a good contract that's been looked over from an attorney. You've got everything signed that needs to be signed. The salespeople did their job. If it was over the phone, it was on a recorded line. Everything was presented in writing. And if you can explain that to the client, most people I've found, at least in Florida, I don't know about New York, but most people are reasonable and they'll understand.
Absolutely.
But then you, of course, get those customers that aren't reasonable or trying to pull one over on you. And unfortunately, that's just part of business. It's going to happen. And sometimes, in the name of customer service, you just have to appease them. But if you've done everything you're supposed to do and everything's airtight and you've explained it and you've communicated well and you're friendly and respectful, most people I've found are good people at the end of the day, and they'll work with you and try to come up with a solution. We had a situation in 2017 before I really understood that, where commercial was a six-figure commercial job that we were doing, and the entire scope of the job just changed throughout the entire. It was like a 3 week long process. We were basically installing a bunch of furniture to student housing, and there's a whole documentary that we made out of it on YouTube about the learning lessons there if you want to watch it.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, it was a tough
Absolutely.
lesson to learn. We lost probably close to six figures on that job just to try to finish the job because we didn't have our T's crossed and our I's dotted, and we didn't do any change orders. We just kept doing what the person told us to do or the company told us to do. And and it almost put us out of business. Fortunately, we were able to turn it around and call it a lesson learned. But it definitely made some deposits into my misery database, so to speak, to where if things go sideways now, I can look back on that time from 6, 7 years ago and say, well, at least it's not as bad as that was, and it helps
Yep.
get you through
Yeah.
things. Misery database. That's a term that I just learned at this conference this weekend from a female fighter pilot. In the Air Force, she was the first female fighter pilot, Martha McSally, and she said
Okay.
she brought that term up, and I thought it was a good term to use for when you've had difficult struggles in the past, to dig into those and say at least this isn't as bad as that was.
Absolutely. I actually say that in one of the things where I put like diesel in a I put gas in a diesel truck, and like it was like catastrophic,
Mm.
at the time. And like I remember like being done. I like threw a cinder block through the windshield. I was so frustrated. I was on my way to the job, and like now I had to rent the truck. It was going to cost hundreds more. I was going to work all day for free, and it's going to cost me whatever money I don't have to fix the truck. And I like remember at the end of the night thinking like when I was laying in bed, like I was done. And I remember thinking, well, if it was a year or two ago, like it would be even worse. You would be done because, back when you were like filling up the gas tank a few times a day. So that must mean you're doing better. Like, and I would think of like, all right, so I'm doing better than then because look, I could handle it now. Oh, it's going to kill me. And like just things like that, keep you going.
100%. Absolutely. So, Rob, what's a day in the life look like for you today? Obviously, it sounds like things have blossomed since those early days back in the early 2000s. What's your current routine, or what's a day in your life look like now?
Mostly trapped to the computer, like doing just like looking over things or having meetings with like managers. I don't really do anything operationally as far as like just check in with the dispatcher. Uh, Forward most of my calls to the office. Do a lot of networking. I'm always going out, meet people tonight, meet people tomorrow. So always like just, networking or supporting other business owners or vice versa, having people come down to do like one-to-one meetings, things like that. Starting to get into like um, a lot of work with this marketing employee that works here because it just is fun. Like, so I love like seeing what he's making and like seeing what he's doing. We're doing this whole like I'm trying to build this platform called like Reload the Dream is Alive collection where we're gonna like produce hoodies and for the book things and all that kind of stuff. And basically like the concept is like everybody thinks like you hear that the American dream is dead, but like the American dream is not dead. Like it might be harder, but it's actually a lot easier. And you could, there's a lot more red tape, but like you could reach 1,000 people with a click. Or imagine if you had to imagine if you had to look something up and drive to a library and go to the Dewey Decimal System. How could you say it's harder, and like that's pretty much like what our concept is. Like nobody's rushing into Mexico, like they're all coming here. The American dream's not dead. I mean, ultimately, like I love doing that stuff because it's like where my passion lies with like people and or helping people that are starting out. So I really want to kind of like what you're doing. Like I really want to focus more on that over the next few years. But other than that, it's just meetings with different departments and brainstorming.
Nice. What kind of marketing have you found that works best for you?
Honestly, it's just about networking. There's nothing that'll touch networking. I believe that, and I know what I sound like saying this, but I believe that the Facebook moms groups are going to make Google like Yellow Book, like Yellow Pages. Like they are so much more powerful than AdWords or SEO or any of that stuff anymore. Like, whereas Google's such a behemoth, with probably, I think it's the biggest company in the world. But like, if you get a referral from a mom's group, or even worse, if you get a bad review from a mom's group, you're done. Like nobody's using you in that neighborhood. And I just see that as something that is so powerful. And I think it's just going to grow.
Yeah, that's a great point. We've identified that too. Would you say like that's your ideal client is kind of like the female of the household of a family?
Yeah, or the siblings, like with the estate sales, and you can tell me if you relate to this, but like I have this belief that like, and since day one, like I recognize it, like when a parent is dies, three personalities emerge no matter what, and it's always the caretaker, the executor, and the one that doesn't give a shit that just wants their inheritance. And whether there's like one sibling or 10 in the house, even with one sibling, all three personalities. That's our like bread and butter situation, like that whole, transition of an elderly parent and the siblings handling
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's a lot to navigate there. And when it comes to like the Facebook groups, we actually made a spreadsheet of like all the neighborhood Facebook groups and all like the relevant ones, and
it. Smart.
shared it with our whole team so that when we see something pop up, we can jump on there and start referring our company and tagging ourselves and messaging the client. Just monitoring those, searching for moving keywords in those groups, and trying to be the overwhelming authority when it comes to that, and just educating people, creating value. Even sometimes taking videos and posting them as a comment. I don't know if you knew you could do that, but you can make a video comment that puts a face to the name versus just saying, "Hey, we're the best." Click our link or whatever.
Yeah,
So
that's
there's
smart.
a lot that can be leveraged on social media, no doubt about it. And I agree that the ideal customer is typically going to be that female. She's usually the one who makes decisions on what trades are coming into the home, who to hire, who has the better gut feeling.
Yo, when I used to do moves, I'll never forget. Like we would like be moving a rug like three times, but the wife like ran to the store. So then like he'd be like, I don't know, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know, what do you think? Like the homeowner, me, and like the guy. And then I'd be like, what do you really think it should be? And he's like, this way. I'm like, perfect, put it that way. And we would always die laughing because it's exactly what happens.
Yeah,
Like every time, no matter what you do, it's the wrong way.
that's right. That's right. So what's next for you, Rob? I mean, it sounds like you're working on a book. You've got some big things in the works. Where's Relocators going? Where are you going in the future?
Uh, you said you were franchising, right?
Yeah.
And you liking that?
Yeah, it's a whole other business. I'm still figuring it out. Trying to figure out how, you're not making a sale to somebody, on a 48-hour timeline. Sometimes the decision to invest in a franchise it's a big life decision. People have to invest their life savings to start a business, leave their career. And so, trying to figure out the right people that are going to do well. Because if they don't succeed, then I don't succeed with it. And it's totally different from the day to day in the service industry. It's business, it's helping other people develop businesses with systems and processes and figuring out how to reach those people. So it's different. It's a new animal that I'm learning. And ultimately, I think we'll do very well at it because I believe in our system that we've created and our marketing strategies. But yeah, it's big, wide open sea ahead for that. I'm curious, are you thinking about franchising, or what's your
No,
goals?
I did like 9 years ago, and I spent like a year or two. I did all like the FDD and traveled the country and had like that whole was in it. I actually kind of cut it and just took it as a complete loss. I had like spent all my savings um, doing it, and I was not a fan of the industry at all. And I actually I look down on the franchise industry kind of as a whole. Not what you're doing. I love helping people. It's just it wasn't. I couldn't like make it work for like something so important. And it's like if you're like the father on a blind side, and you have this big business and you own these franchises. Yes, franchising is great, but for something that's like super personal and intimate, like we sold one, and the way that people being taken care of, I was like, no way. And I want to do that, and I'm trying to figure out a way to do it on like a corporate partnership level, like percentages of the company, but we're still completely involved, our office. Um, just because of the customer service side of it. And I don't know, I see, well, you hear about franchises and it's like, it's all about like that industry. It's like the Wild West. And the whole industry is like, it's all about, oh, you got to be this organization, this organization, this organization. But it's really all of them just praising each other. Like I don't know. If there's anything I could help you with franchising or advice or bad advice, good advice, whatever, anything I learned in it, you could call me anytime. I turned away from it, and now I'd like to go back to the corporate. I came back to do like commercial real estate, and that's pretty much where we are now. We have industrial buildings for storage and stuff. And now I'd like to, like with Florida or the Carolinas, like partner up with some like a realtor and a contractor, married couple that live in like Virginia. Like I have this vision of them. Like we could be partners, and we could open this up in your community. Because ultimately, like the whole like, put a 20-year-old manager in a Cold Stone creamery, like wasn't like it. I don't know. It didn't work for like the other stuff I do. If it was one or two services, 100%, I could see it. But it wasn't like, I don't think it was the right choice for me. So I kind of turned after seeing the industry. And plus the people, like I said, that you have to, work with, like there's some good people, really good people, but a lot of people, it's almost like it's just all a show. There's no substance with their stuff.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's good franchises, there's bad ones, and customer service is definitely, it varies a lot from location to location in a lot of different industries. Our model's a little different in that we've got a centralized customer service center that currently helps our existing franchisee and our future franchisees with handling claims and making sure, checking in with the clients, making sure that their moves are going smooth so that, we don't want that to suffer. We don't want one bad apple to reflect poorly on the entire brand. And I think that's where a lot of franchises go wrong and a lot of them don't make it. We'll see if our model is different, but we have a centralized call center, we have a centralized customer service center, and we oversee the digital marketing and stuff like that and offer that support, really.
What services do they do?
The customer service?
No, like your franchises. What services do they do?
Oh, it's primarily just moving. So, local.
Yeah, that I understand 100%. And that works. I mean, a couple companies have done it in a huge scale. It absolutely, like I think your model absolutely works. My model, it didn't work because there's just too much stuff going on. You know what I mean? It's too like intertwined with each other.
Yeah, you've got a lot of services, and I think the hometown dominator model that you're doing, where you kind of attack it from all angles. There's nothing wrong with that. There's different ways to skin a cat. At the end of the day, what works the best for you is what makes the most sense. Robert, how can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out and network with you?
Sure. Our office is 516-595-7420. And our website is usrelocators.com. Or my personal email is robert@usrelocators.com. And my Instagram handle is rspo.5.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me here, Robert. We're coming up on time, but I'm really happy to have had this conversation with you. And best of luck up there. Next time you're in Florida, come give me a shout. And if I'm ever in the New York area, I'll do the same and welcome you to come down to our Moving Tight Retreat in March.
Absolutely. Please send me the info, and thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise.
I love what you're doing. Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you would like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.